General Quarters.
Greetings, folks. Anila Horum here with another World of Warships replay. Today we are featuring a match in the new aircraft carrier gameplay mode. This is Chremoa, and he is in the Tier 8 U.S. Navy aircraft carrier USS Lexington. He has mounted the Nobilium Halloween camo, which is why the airplanes look so unusual. This is going to be a tough match for a Tier 8 aircraft carrier. This is a domination match on Okinawa. There is one Tier 8 aircraft carrier on each team and a bunch of Tier 10 ships and only one destroyer for each team. Chremoa has taken advantage of most of the aircraft carrier skills and upgrades available to him. He did take the damage control systems upgrade in slot 4 instead of one of the other aircraft-centric upgrades, and I'd be curious to understand from Chremoa or somebody who's a regular aircraft carrier player why that might be a good choice here. My general opinion is that if you're in an aircraft carrier and you need to be regularly putting out fires, something is probably very wrong to begin with. So Chremoa is starting this battle by bringing his planes over the center of these caps, and he's not making any attempt to strike any ships at this point. And this is something that at least I've seen a number of aircraft carrier players do. They're basically using the fact that these planes are now very quick and certainly faster now than they were in the old carrier gameplay mode, and that they are able to get a good view of the opposing team for their allies very quickly, just so that they understand where the different ships are headed and what they're doing. So he's trying to stay as much as he can out of the anti-aircraft fire. He has taken some damage, but mainly is just trying to get visibility on where the different ships are. In fact, we have now spotted the Shimakaze, although I think he's probably being spotted by something other than the aircraft. And mainly just trying to get some visibility here. So I think this is a really a smart thing to do, frankly, and I appreciate it as a surface ship to know where the different opponents are headed to. So Chremoa is going to swing back over here to the south, get over by Charlie, and is going to get to this more isolated Jean Bar or maybe the Monarch to get his initial strike in. In fact, he may have also been trying to get over to see if he could find the Shimakaze and maybe get a strike in on him. But the Jean Bar is more isolated, and so this is going to be his first run. The Jean Bar has very good anti-air, and so this was kind of a tough run, but Chremoa was able to get a strike in and get a few thousand hit point damage using the rocket planes, but has now recalled that squadron, and he's now putting up a squadron of, I believe, torpedo bombers. So one thing that has changed with the new aircraft carrier gameplay mode is that the players only control one squadron at a time. And you'll notice there on the left-hand side of the screen that his opponent, aircraft carrier, has put up a set of fighters to basically discourage the attack aircraft from coming into that area. The fighters now in the new carrier gameplay mode are a consumable that are called by the aircraft carrier to basically set up an area of fighter control instead of controlling the fighters directly to strike at the opponent's aircrafts. Here Chremoa is getting some torpedoes in, again on this Jean Bar that is to some extent isolated himself in sea. This is making him relatively easy pickings, although you can see that that Chremoa is losing quite a few planes as he's getting these drops in on the Jean Bar. Taking a look at the tactical situation, the opposing team is quite steeply spread out here across mainly the north and south side, with a couple of ships in the middle, whereas Chremoa's team is heavily sort of concentrated on the southwest side of Bravo, with a couple of ships meandering down towards Charlie. It has not been an uncommon practice, at least in my experience, in the old carrier gameplay mode, when there was a very strong aircraft carrier gameplay, that ships on one team would concentrate around a common area so that they would give each other mutual AA, and then would focus fire on opposing ships that kind of meandered off on their own. But that isn't so much of a strategy I think that would be needed here with the new carrier gameplay mode. Again, the aircraft carrier players can only control one squadron at a time, and in this case, Chremoa is using his bombers and does get a couple of bomb hits, or 3 bomb hits, and a fire on that Jean Bar, and then some additional artillery fire from one of his allies does finish off the Jean Bar. And then the allied team has also now just lost another one of their ships, a Monarch. So we currently have, the allied team has a 1-ship deficit. They are now contesting Charlie and starting to take that. But the opposing team is taking Bravo and Alpha. And it looks like they are now, the opposing team is now concentrating on those 2 caps. Come back to Chremoa's ship to get the next squadron. Again, I believe these are rocket planes, or what I believe are called attack aircraft, technically speaking. They are using rockets. And again, I expect at this point Chremoa is probably coming out to Charlie to try to locate the Shimakaze. One, to get him detected, because we do have a set of allied ships that have moved into Charlie to try to take that cap, and be good to get that destroyer spotted to avoid taking the allies from taking torpedoes, but also they could put some fire on that Shimakaze. So I think that's what Chremoa is doing here, is he's trying to locate the ship. Now, one thing that has been available to aircraft carrier players, which Chremoa currently does not have, but is currently available up through 0.8.1, is there is the Shimakaze's very low health now, and so Chremoa is going to circle back around to keep that destroyer detected. Coming back to my comment here, through 0.8.1, aircraft carrier players can take the radio location skill, and that will actually be available to their aircraft. And so the aircraft would be able to home in on opponents more easily and get them located, including this Shimakaze that Chremoa was now able to finish off. And so the opposing team has lost its single destroyer. I should also note that the allied team has lost their destroyer as well, so neither team is working with a traditional spotting or capping ship. But the allied team has now just lost one of their tier 8 cruisers, the Hipper, to the aircraft carrier. So another common practice of aircraft carrier players is, and this has been true even with the old carrier gameplay mode, is that they tend to focus on ships that have isolated themselves. Now, Chremoa, from what I can tell, and I'm not an aircraft carrier player here, so any feedback from Chremoa or other aircraft carrier players would be helpful here on sort of validating my analysis. It looks like the way that he approaches his attacks on these airplanes is he comes in low and early, try to fly below the flak, which has been, I think, a source of consternation for a lot of aircraft carrier players as they've been learning the new mode, is that the flak is the long-range anti-air bubble or attack mechanism that ships have. And generally the idea has been that now that the aircraft carrier players control the airplanes themselves directly, that they can try to maneuver around or under the flak and minimize the amount of damage that they're taking from what is traditionally the more powerful form of anti-air attack, which is flak. Here again, he's coming in low and early on the Yamato, which is very low health, is looking to get this tier 10 aircraft carrier out of the way, although it looks like the Yamato really only needs to take another shell from another ship, which he does, and that attack was not really needed, or at least Chremoa's approach on that attack was not really needed. Now, Chremoa's going to come in on this opposing Des Moines, and again, Des Moines traditionally has had very powerful anti-air, but Chremoa seems to be able to fly in underneath the flak bursts here pretty successfully and get his torpedoes dropped off on the Des Moines. One thing we're going to find out later in the battle, that Des Moines player that Chremoa just went after actually is stuck on the rocks right now. And apparently he was stuck pretty much for the entire game once he got into that position. And there will actually be a comment from that player publicly that he kind of thanked the Chremoa's team for finally sinking him, because he was stuck for a long time and was kind of frustrated by being in that position. So Chremoa is going to circle back around here. Now, interesting. Okay, so the taking a look at the tactical situation again, the Allied team did eventually take Charlie. The opposing team, for whatever reason, never ended up taking Alpha. I'm not sure why, but they did take Bravo, and the Allied team, excuse me, is now contesting Bravo. So the opposing team is getting no points from any of their caps, and they've also lost a substantial number of their ships, more so than the Allied team has. So the Allied team has a very healthy point lead, although there's enough opposing ships that there's still a potential that the opposing team could have a chance to win. But the Allied team has a very strong line of ships stretching from the southwest to the northeast, although now they've just lost to Musashi. And so the Allied team generally is in a much better position because they do hold a cap, and they are contesting Bravo, and they're in a position that they are able to defend. There is an opposing Republic here on the east side of the map, but he is very low health and is in close proximity to two Allied tier-10 battleships, so he will be going down soon, and there's no need for Chremoa to be going after that battleship. In fact, the battleship has now just been sunk. So the one opposing ship that it continues to contest Bravo is this poor Des Moines here that has just been called target on by Chremoa, who's stuck on the rocks. And so Chremoa is going to come in here with another attack run. And again, the way that I interpret how he's approaching this attack is that he's starting his attack run early so that he can fly in underneath the flak bursts instead of flying through them, which is typically the way I've seen a lot of carrier players lose their planes, at least early in their learning of this new aircraft carrier gameplay mode. And he is going to get 3 more torpedoes in on the Des Moines. Now, one thing I observed in the replay that I did recently with the old carrier gameplay mode is that the torpedoes, the aerial torpedoes in the old gameplay mode had much higher alpha damage than they do now. So Chremoa has gotten 6 torpedoes on this Des Moines, which in the old carrier gameplay mode almost certainly would have been enough to sink the Des Moines. But under the new carrier gameplay mode, I suspect he probably didn't take more than half the health of the Des Moines, although that Des Moines has now just been sunk. And so the Allied team has an overwhelming lead. They're now just about to take Bravo. And when the Allied team sinks one more ship, which in this case is the Chapayev, they are going to win. So this is a really quick match. But a very interesting perspective that a tier-8 aircraft carrier in a tier-10 match has been able to, execute successfully here. Here he's about to get a rocket attack in on, Chremoa is going to get a rocket attack in on this Chapayev, and he is going to sink the Chapayev and win the game for his team. So Chremoa, thank you very much for sending this in. This was a very interesting perspective. It demonstrates not only just the mechanics and the perspective of the new carrier gameplay mode, but also shows that a tier 8 aircraft carrier can be successful in a tier 10 match. And in this case, although he didn't reach top XP, he was in the top half of his team. So very well played and very interesting. And thank you very much for sharing. So I hope you enjoyed the replay and the commentary. Please do leave your comments below. And as always, we hope to see you out there, and we wish you happy sailing.